Today is really to break down this pretty clever technique we learned about. It seems like it really helps boost your chances of success.
Especially, yeah, if your weather isn't exactly tropical paradise.
Totally. It's like you're taking control of things for the cutting.
Mm-hmm. Creating its own little perfect environment, basically.
Exactly. A mini greenhouse just for your future plumeria. Okay, but before we get into the how-to, the real details,
Yeah.
we want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Plumeria Life.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, if you've got the plumeria bug, and trust me, it happens, and you want to show off that passion, Plumeria Life is the place.
What kind of stuff do they have?
They've got some awesome plumeria themed t-shirts, other gear too. You can find it all at https://plumerialife.etsy.com. It's a really cool way to, wear your love for these plants.
That sounds great.
And check this out, you can use the code Plumeria Podcast for 20% off.
Oh, wow, 20%.
Yep, Plumeria Podcast, all one word, for 20% off at Plumeria Life on Etsy. Go check them out.
Awesome deal. Showing your plumeria pride just got easier.
Totally. Okay, so back to getting that little cutting started. This technique, it's often called bag rooting, right?
Yeah, bag rooting, that's the common term.
So at its core, what is it actually trying to do?
Well, what's really neat about bag rooting is how simple it is, but how well it works. You're basically turning a clear plastic bag into a little greenhouse.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it traps humidity, it traps warmth right around the cutting, and that gives it those consistent conditions that tell the plant, okay, it's safe, time to make some roots.
So you're basically faking that tropical air they love, that warm, humid, stable vibe.
Exactly. And it's not just about the warmth and humidity, though. That's huge. This little enclosed space also protects the cutting.
Protects it from what?
Well, yeah, drying winds if you were trying to do it outside, or sudden temperature shifts,
Hmm.
even little bugs maybe. And critically, it helps keep the moisture in the soil really stable.
Okay, the soil moisture. Why is getting that just right and keeping it stable inside the bag so important? Seems like you'd want to keep watering it.
Yeah, this is super important. And honestly, it's where a lot of beginners kind of mess up with plumerias.
Okay.
See, plumeria cuttings, before they actually have roots, they are really, really prone to rotting.
Oh, right.
If the soil's too wet, especially for a long time, nasty stuff like fungi and bacteria can just chew away at that cut end before it even thinks about reading.
Yikes.
So the bag method, if you set it up right with soil that's just damp, not wet, well, it means you don't really need to water it again for potentially weeks.
Really? Weeks?
Yeah, maybe longer. And that dramatically cuts down the risk of it sitting in soggy soil and rotting. That wet feet problem.
Okay. So it's less about giving it a drink to make roots and more about preventing rot while it heals and then decides to root, like a hands-off approach to water at first.
Exactly. You let the trap humidity do the work of keeping the cutting from drying out, while the just damp soil doesn't encourage rot.
Okay, I'm sold. This sounds really smart, actually. So how do you actually do it? Walk us through setting up this little plumeria paradise in a bag.
Okay, let's do it. Based on what we've seen people sharing online, right? First, you got to get your materials together.
Right.
You need some good, healthy plumeria cuttings, obviously. But people usually say mature branches, maybe, I don't know, 12 to 18 inches long, something like that.
Okay, decent size.
Yeah, and look for ones that are firm, green or maybe a little woody at the base. No obvious bugs or gooey spots.
Got it. Healthy cutting. And the bag.
Yep, a clear plastic bag. Make sure it's sturdy enough and big enough so the cutting fits inside without being bent over double.
Okay. What else? Soil.
You need a really well-draining potting mix. Like stuff for cacti or succulents is usually pretty good. Or if you can find a plumeria-specific mix, even better. The key is you don't want it holding on to tons of water.
Good point. Drainage is key. What about rooting hormone? Do people use that?
Yeah, rooting hormone is often recommended.
Yeah.
It's not strictly necessary sometimes, but it can definitely give the cutting a boost, help it root faster. Usually comes as a powder or gel you dip the end in.
Okay.
And you'll need something to close the bag, twist ties, rubber bands, whatever. Oh, and maybe some labels if you're doing different kinds so you don't forget what's what.
Labels are always a good idea. Okay, materials check. Now, the cutting itself, you said get a healthy one. You don't just chop it and bag it, right?
Right.
Seems too easy.
No, you are absolutely right. This next part is maybe the most critical step, and people often skip it if they're used to rooting like herbs or something.
Okay, what is it?
After you take your cutting, use clean, sharp shears or knife. Make a clean cut. You have to let it cure.
Cure? What does that mean? Let it dry out?
Exactly. You just set the cutting aside somewhere dry, airy, out of direct sun for about 1 to 2 weeks.
A whole week or two.
Yep, what happens is the cut end dries and forms this hard protective layer. It's called a callus.
Oh, like a scab on a cut.
Precisely. Think of it just like that. This callus seals the wound, basically. It creates a barrier that stops rot from getting in when you finally put it in the damp soil. If you skip this, high chance it just turns to mush from the bottom up.
Ah, that makes so much sense now. Let it heal before you put it in that humid, potentially risky bag environment. Okay, so cutting's made, it's cured for a week or two. Now we build the greenhouse.
Now we build, okay, take your clear bag, put just a few inches of your potting mix in the bottom.
Just a few inches, like 3 or 4.
Yeah, something like that. Just enough so the cutting can stand up stably and the bottom inch or two is in the soil. Now here's the next crucial bit. The moisture level of that soil before the cutting goes in.
Okay.
You want it damp. Consistently damp all the way through, but absolutely not wet or soggy. A good test is to grab a handful and squeeze it.
Uh-huh.
You should kind of hold its shape and maybe release like one tiny drop of water, but that's it. No streaming water.
Yeah.
Think like a sponge you've wrung out really well.
Okay, damp, not dripping. Got it. How do you get it like that? Just add water to the bag.
No, it's usually easier to pre-moisten the soil first.
Yeah.
Like put the amount you need in a separate bowl or bucket, add a little water, mix it really well, add a bit more if needed, until it's that perfect damp consistency all through. Then put those few inches in the bag.
Gotcha. Pre-moisten, then bag it. Okay. Soil is damp. It's in the bag. Cutting is cured. Do I dip it in that rooting hormone now?
Yep, now's the time. If you're using it, dip that calloused end into the powder or gel. Follow the instructions on the package right before you put it in the soil.
Okay.
Then just gently push the calloused end maybe an inch or two deep into the damp soil. Make sure it's standing upright reasonably well.
All right. Cutting's in the soil, standing up. Now what? Add water around it. Like settle it in.
Okay, deep breath. Here comes the part that feels totally wrong, but is what all the sources seem to stress.
Uh-oh. What is it?
Do not add any water.
Wait, really? None.
Seriously.
Yes.
0 extra water right now. The moisture that's already in that damp soil you put in, plus the humidity that's going to build up once you seal the bag, that is all the cutting needs for weeks, maybe even months, until you see roots.
Wow. Okay.
It's done.
That's counterintuitive. My gut says water it.
I know. Everyone's does.
Mm-hmm.
But remember the rot risk. Adding more water now, especially when it's just calloused and doesn't have roots to drink it, is like sending an invitation to fungus.
Right. Rot.
The
No.
damp soil gives it just enough contact moisture,
Yeah.
and the high humidity stops the rest of the cutting from drying out while it works on making roots.
Okay. Rule number 1 for this stage. No. Water. Cutting is in, soil is damp.
Right.
Now seal the bag, right?
Right, seal the top, use your twist tie or rubber band, but important detail, don't make it totally airtight. You want that high humidity, but if it's completely sealed, the air can get stagnant, which can actually encourage mold sometimes. So cinch it pretty well, maybe just below the top leaves of the cutting, but leave just a tiny bit of room for air exchange. Secure, but not hermetically sealed.
Got it. Secure, slightly breathable. Okay. Where does this contraption live now? Does it need, like, baking in the sun?
Oh, definitely not direct sun. No way. Inside that plastic bag, direct sunlight will basically cook your cutting. It becomes an oven super fast.
Yikes. Okay. No direct sun. What then?
You need somewhere warm. That's really important. Ideally, consistently above, say, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius, and bright but indirect light.
Warm and bright, but indirect, like near a window that doesn't get blasted by afternoon sun.
Exactly. Or maybe under a grow light if you have one, set back a bit. The warmth is just as important as the light for encouraging roots.
Okay. Warm spot, indirect light.
Now,
We wait. How long does this usually take, and how do I know if it's actually working or if, something's gone wrong?
yep, now comes the patience part. It can take anywhere from, I don't know, maybe 4 or 6 weeks on the fast end to several months. It really depends on the cutting, the variety, the temperature.
Okay, so be patient. How do I check on it?
Just look at the bag periodically. You'll probably see condensation on the inside walls.
Is that good or bad?
That's good. That's your humidity doing its job. You can also just gently, feel the cutting through the bag. It should stay firm. If it starts getting really soft or mushy, that's bad. If it gets super shriveled, that's also not great, but maybe fixable. Can you actually see the roots?
Sometimes. If you're lucky and have the bag positioned right, you might actually see little white root nubs starting to form at the base, right through the clear plastic. That's the jackpot sign.
Cool. Okay, what about problems? You mentioned mold if it's too stagnant.
Right. If you see fuzzy stuff growing in there, white or gray mold, on the soil or the cutting, that means it's probably too wet and not enough air is getting exchanged.
Okay, what do I do?
You got to increase the ventilation right away, open the top of the bag right up for a few hours each day, or just loosen the tie a lot more permanently. Let things dry out a bit until the mold disappears, and maybe double check if your starting soil was actually too wet.
Makes sense.
Oh.
What about the shriveling thing if it looks like it's drying out despite the humidity? Yeah, that can happen sometimes. Maybe the cutting wasn't super plump to start with, or maybe it's just not warm enough, so it's using up its reserves before it roots. If it's shriveling noticeably, but doesn't look like it's rotting, you can try adding a tiny bit of water.
Oh, okay. So sometimes
A
water.
tiny bit, like maybe a tablespoon or two. Carefully added just to the soil, not in the cutting itself. You're just trying to get the soil back to that barely damp state, not make it wet. Being really conservative is key here. Some people even use a moisture meter, carefully stuck into the soil in the bag to check.
Wow, a moisture meter in the bag. That's dedication.
Say, whatever boosts your success rate,
Oh.
right? Especially for a cutting you really want. Precision can help.
Fair point. Okay, so let's fast forward. Let's say it worked. I see roots, or maybe I see definite new little leaves starting to push at the top. Success. What now? Just rip the bag off and plant it?
Whoa, not so fast.
Hmm.
That little guy's been living in a super humid spa environment. You got to ease it back into the real world. Acclimatize it gradually.
How do you do that?
Once you're sure it's rooted like visible roots or good leaf growth, start by just opening the top of the bag wider. Leave it like that for a day or two. Then open it even more for a few more days. Then maybe take the bag off entirely, but keep it in the same spot for another day or two.
So like over a week or so.
Yeah, something like that. A slow transition. Let it get used to the lower humidity levels outside the bag bit by bit. Once it's been fully out of the bag for a few days and still looks happy, then you can carefully transplant it
Transplant it where?
to a slightly larger pot with good drainage, or maybe into its final spot in the garden if your climate allows and the time is right. Just be gentle with the new roots.
Okay, a gentle, slow transition out of the spa. That makes sense. Don't shock the system.
Exactly. You're just mimicking how things change more gradually in nature.
Man, this bag rooting thing really does sound like a potential game changer, especially for folks like us trying to grow these amazing plants outside the tropics.
It really does. It takes away a lot of the stress and guesswork about keeping things perfectly humid and warm right at the start.
Yeah, much more control.
It makes it feel much more achievable, I think, especially for beginners. Increases your odds quite a bit.
Okay, so just to kind of recap the main points of this bag rooting deep dive, you need a healthy cutting. Then the super important step, let it cure, let it callus over for a week or two.
So skip the curing.
Right. Then set up your clear bag, just a few inches of soil. Make sure that soil is damp, like a wrung out sponge, but definitely not wet.
Crucial moisture level.
Put the cutting in, maybe use rooting hormone, seal the bag up loosely, remember, a little air exchange, and put it somewhere warm with bright but indirect light.
No cooking in the sun.
No cooking. And the other biggie, resist that urge to water it. No water until you actually see roots or real leaf growth.
Patience and observation.
Then monitor it, watch for mold, and if it works, transition it out slowly.
That's a pretty solid roadmap right there for giving it a try.
Yeah. So now hopefully you feel like you have a plan for trying this yourself, maybe expanding your own Plumeria collection. It seems doable this way.
It really does. And it's kind of cool to think about, isn't it? How just creating this tiny controlled environment lets the plant do its thing, grow from just a stick, basically.
It is cool. Makes you think about like the power of these little microclimates. How just mimicking nature's perfect setup in a simple plastic bag unlocks all that potential in the cutting. Makes you wonder what other things, maybe even outside of plants, could benefit from creating just the right tiny environment like that.
That's an interesting thought to cultivate.
Indeed. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, one last huge thank you to our sponsor, Plumeria Life.
Yeah, thanks, Plumeria Life.
If you're feeling the Plumeria love after this chat, definitely check out their awesome themed t-shirts and other cool stuff.
Where was that again?
It's at https://plumerialife.etsy.com. And don't forget that code, Plumeria Podcast, gets you 20% off your order.
Sweet deal.
Yeah. Go check them out and show your Plumeria passion.